Hey guys, welcome back to the Snapring Chronicles. Today we're back at you with another Ratchet video. Something a little more, you would say, maybe from the gimmick side also. From the gimmick side of tools, the gimmick side of ratchets. This is a master mechanic ratchet, and it's made in Taiwan. It's a 1/4" drive. And the model number, I think it says M1000, if that's the model number. The gimmick of this is that this is all plastic. It's all plastic, no plastic coated metal. The whole body is plastic. And they have these two long plates on either side. And when we break this open, you're going to see how this all kind of works. But before we jump into it, if you could do me a big favor and hit the like button, and also subscribe to this channel if you find these videos at all helpful or entertaining. So yeah, don't know much about this ratchet. I kind of found it for like $1. It was like laying around. And I was looking at it, I've never seen one like this. So I was like, looks pretty interesting. Let me, for $1, yeah, of course. Let me check it out. And has some interesting features. It has like a bat wing, because you see the switch is kind of ratcheting back and forth. It's like a bat wing pawl in there. This has a heavy back drag. Like doing it by finger is kind of hard. Moving that back drag. And as I said, if I said it or not, this is a quick release ratchet. You see it here. So let's open this up and see what's the whole hullabaloo about. I highly recommend you take a magnetic dish and open this up above a magnetic dish, because there are some really tiny parts in here that if you lose, you probably never see again. And oh, by the way, you're gonna need a Torx 8 to open these screws up. It has 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4 here. And hold these plates down when you're about to take all these screws out, when you're on your last screw, to make sure you do this controlled. You don't want to do this just willy-nilly. Okay. You can hold one plate and push kind of the button, and this plate will start moving a little bit. Alright, there we go. And you remove this plate really slow. This is what the inside looks like. Not kind of typical if this was all metal, but you can see the plastic sides there. Kind of a little bit weird. And this is kind of where you really want to be careful. You take this gear out. And let me put this down. Here's the gear. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can get a better look at this. There's a tiny ball bearing on the side here of the gear for some reason. And if you lose that, I don't know what's the purpose of that ball bearing, what it's doing there. But there is a spring underneath, a tiny spring underneath that ball bearing in a hole in the gear. And this is tiny. And you know what? When I first opened this up, I did lose this ball bearing. But by some miracle, I found it. But I imagine if you would lose that, it would be hard to find. But anyway, here's the gear. Didn't count the teeth on this one, but it doesn't look very fine tooth. Maybe like 40 teeth on this. I'll put it in the description of how many teeth are on this. And okay, here's the other side. Like I said, it's pretty basic. There's a ball with a spring in the plastic, and there's this pawl here. But if you're careful, you want to push out and let that like cover your holes there and push this out. And let it fall into the tray. Okay, here's your pawl. And the pawl, it's connected to this switch through a pin. It's like a hex pin. It's like a hex opening on the pawl. There are 3 teeth per side on the pawl. And the pawl looks well machined. Let me put this down for a second. It has like chamfering on the holes. And it doesn't look too bad. Okay, let me zoom back out. And here's the plate with the switch. And the switch has a number 8 screw that's is connecting it to the pin. I'm not gonna take that out because I want to save a minute when I put this all together. Okay, here's the other plate. And here's the ball bearing, and I'll put the ball bearing next to that other bearing. That's the ball bearing, and that's that other little tiny bearing that goes into the hole in the gear, just for comparison's sake. Okay, here are the plates. You can see they're like lollipops. They kind of got this long stick here. And the theory I think that they were going for here is that there seems to be like a metal bar inside the handle. And I kind of prove that with this magnet. So the magnet goes all the way down. It's holding all the way down. So there's like a bar here. There's these bar where 2 holes are drilled into it, and they put it inside this plastic handle. And I guess the theory is that these plates are going to screw into that bar, and that bar is supposed to supply the rigidity for these plates, and the pawl and the pin and all the rest of that are supposed to get their rigidity from this bar in the handle and not the sides here. So it's not depending on the sides for its strength. It's depending on this bar in the handle. Okay, you might get away with this with a 1/4 inch. I can't see this really working with a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch, because on those I think a lot of the strength in the mechanism comes from the side here, the side of the ratchet, where it leans against the sides for when it's when it's torquing something down, it kind of moves, it leans to one side, especially on these batwing ones, and that's where they get their strength, or some of their strength at least, from the metal on the sides here and the thickness of the metal. This, I don't know, I can see what they were trying to do, but I don't know if they really accomplished what they were trying to do. Maybe they did for the 1/4 inch, like I'm saying, but as far as like anything heavy duty, I don't think this will pass the muster test. But I guess it was kind of a gimmick. Okay, to get this all back together is gonna be another challenge, because this is one of those ratchets that it's pretty difficult to get back together. Okay, you see the notch there where the spring goes? I just put the spring on there like that, and I take the plate with the switch on it, and I drop that one in there like that. Okay, you should look like this. And now I take the ball bearing and I put that on top of the spring. And make sure you know where your switch is oriented towards. If it's going down, that way you can put your pawl in correctly. You might want to cant it a little bit to the side so as to make it easier for it to go in. Now I grabbed this little tool, kind of I made, but I think it's basically a cuticle remover or something like that. And you might want to put this down onto a surface, and hopefully I was oriented right. Let me see. Yes. You see how the pole is like that? You want the switch to be oriented correctly. And that might take you a few tries. So don't feel bad if you're going to do this like 5 or 6 times. I'm telling you, this one is pretty hard. And here's another fun part. Is remember that little hole with the tiny ball bearing? Okay, so you take your tiny ball bearing and you drop that in the hole. You might want to put a little bit of super lube in there, or some kind of grease to hold it in there. I'm not doing it right now, but you might want to try that, because that ball might want to get funny on you and go wandering. So I'm going to do this upside down here, so the ball will stay in there. Okay. Alright. Hopefully the ball stayed in there. I think it stayed in there. Okay, now you take your second plate and you put that one my gloves got stuck there, and you hold it tight and you see if it's working. Yeah, it seems to be working. Now get these screws in as fast as you can before this whole thing like just falls apart on you, because there's so many things that can go wrong. That little ball bearing falls out, the ball under the pawl jumps out of its nook there. So I just try to get this all together pretty quick so I don't have to be afraid of all that stuff coming apart again and having to do it all over. Alright, not too tight. These are small, pretty small screws. Okay, now you see, test it out. Like I said, there's a back drag. You might, maybe if you lube this up a little bit better, it would be a little bit better. But there you go. Like I said, this Master Mechanic, not sure who sold these. They're from Taiwan. Pretty much kind of gimmicky, this whole plastic body and the way it's anchored to the metal shank inside the handle. It's, I don't know, kind of an interesting design, a bit overcomplicated. That little tiny ball bearing, it's real pain. Not sure what they were trying to do here, but if you see one and you see one for $1 and you want a novelty, yeah, pick this up. It might work a little bit, but I'm not too confident in this design. But not bad as a novelty. Alright guys, until next time.